I'm pregnant. Don't bother coming back. Huh? Didn't you hear? I'm having a baby with Joe. No. Can it be? It's your fault, Lisa. You neglected your husband under the guise of accompanying your mother. You brought this on yourself. Madison, looking triumphant, said so. But I, without any disturbance, took her words, "Don't bother coming back," as a favor. Is that so? I'm delighted. My unexpected reaction left Joe and Madison dumbfounded. Lisa, what are you talking about? Aren't you mad that I cheated? Well, I was surprised initially, but I'm not angry. Besides, I already have a new home. A new home. What's that about? Yes, I have somewhere else to go. So, I can leave Joe, who I no longer trust, to Madison. I murmured that in my heart. And little did these two know, a great misfortune awaited them. I am Lisa, a 43-year-old housewife working in construction. I have a childhood friend named Madison. Madison and I have been playing together since we were little. However, by the time we entered middle school, due to our wild natures, we became like delinquent friends. This relationship continued until we graduated from high school. But as adults, we ended up living opposite lives. Since childhood, I had been disinterested in studying, but in my 20s, while working, I dedicated myself to self-improvement, including obtaining certifications. This effort paid off, and by my 30s, my career was on track. In contrast, Madison believed in enjoying life to the fullest during her 20s and 30s. As we passed our 40s, both unmarried, Madison seemed not to worry much about it. Unlike her, I was raised by my mother alone after losing my father early on and started to think about getting married to give back to my mother for her upbringing. Despite many men at work, those close to my age were all married. Casually, I asked my boss if he knew any suitable singles. He introduced me to a man close to my age, Joe, a bachelor. Joe, 2 years my senior and the president of a construction company, seemed serious and well-mannered. Like me, Joe, who took over his parents' company, was dedicated to his work. Busy with qualifications and work, he hadn't shown much interest in marriage. However, finding common ground, our relationship flourished. And within a year, we promised to marry. I shared the news with Madison. Really? That's great, Lisa. Congratulations. Thank you. Sorry, I went first. Don't worry about it. Just be happy. Madison expressed her happiness for me. Thank you truly. You must come to the wedding. Yeah. Looking forward to it. After informing Madison, all that was left was to prepare for the wedding. Tomorrow, I would visit Joe's family home for the first time, feeling excited. However, I was soon to realize that this excitement was only temporary. The next morning, I prepared myself with determination. Joe's family home. I wondered what it would be like. Though Joe's parents had passed away, meaning that a family home was where Joe lived alone now. I was curious about Joe's upbringing and had wanted to visit his home. But he had never invited me. His home was in a remote area at the foothills, far from mine. Having a car, I planned to go directly. But Joe insisted on picking me up due to the complicated location. While driving, Joe sheepishly said, "It's quite rural, so you might be surprised." No, I prefer quiet places over bustling ones. Is it a peaceful countryside? I'm looking forward to it. I tried to lighten the mood, but Joe hesitated, as if not wanting me to expect too much. Yet, to me, any place Joe lived was exciting. The drive took us over an hour into the next county, far from the idyllic countryside. through dim bamboo groves into a seemingly abandoned area, where we stopped. Here we are. This is my home. He led me to a garage surrounded by debris, facing a century-old traditional house. This house is. Yes, this is my home. It's a bit old but well built. I stared, open-mouthed, surveying the large property with a small, old wooden house. I naively thought we'd move after marrying, but Joe's next words shocked me. Come on in. This will be our home, where we'll live together forever. Don't be shy. What? Living in this house forever after getting married? The thought made me feel faint, and I asked Joe. Are we going to live here? It's almost a 2-hour drive from my company. What? You can just quit your job after we get married. My income is more than enough for us to live on. I was shocked by Joe's unexpected response. We had discussed our careers before, but he had never mentioned wanting me to quit my job once we were married. But I've told you how much I love my work. Why would you decide without consulting me that I should quit? Even when I pressed him, Joe looked puzzled and answered. Because it's common sense that a woman quits her job and takes care of the home once she marries a man who earns well. My mother did the same, so I thought you'd understand without having to say it explicitly. I was stunned, unable to comprehend encountering someone with such an outdated mindset. This place was far from both my workplace and my mother's house, with whom I currently live, making it inconvenient in many ways. I wanted to discuss this, but I was so overwhelmed that I couldn't find the words. And the house. Although it's well built because it's old, parts of the wall are crumbling. And the floors creak as you walk. The bath and toilet need to be updated, and with so few rooms. It would be inconvenient if we had children. Can we live in this house forever? Seeing my anxious expression, Joe tried to reassure me. It's okay. It might take some getting used to. But living in a traditional Japanese house has its charms. You'll come to find it comfortable. I wanted to say that wasn't the issue, but I couldn't articulate my thoughts. For now, I decided not to say anything and asked to be taken home before it got too late. You could stay over, you know. It's quite a drive. Joe said it casually, but I wasn't in the mood to stay. That night, I lay down early and thought to myself in bed. Right, even if we start by living in Joe's family home, we can always move later. I've worked hard and saved enough money, and Joe, as the owner of a construction company, surely has the means to afford a new home. I decided to discuss this with him next time. On my next day off, I brought up the idea of moving to a new house with Joe. However, he didn't seem keen on the idea. Why? It seems a waste to move when we already have a house. It seemed Joe had already settled on living in his house forever. Was it selfish of me to care about the convenience of living closer to work and my family? I felt increasingly frustrated. Yet, I didn't come to dislike Joe, and we went through with the marriage. The wedding, befitting the owner of a construction company, was grand. Of course, Madison attended. Madison, looking glamorous and younger, drew attention even from the men at the venue. Even Joe, the groom, asked, "Is that beautiful woman Lisa's friend?" Though I was supposed to be the center of attention, I felt a twinge of jealousy towards Madison. Somehow, the wedding went off without a hitch, and our married life began. Joe was content living in his familiar home. And I reluctantly quit my job to become a housewife, feeling somewhat unsettled. So, I started to make a plan. One day, I received a call from the hospital where my mother was a patient. She had been suddenly admitted due to illness. I rushed to the hospital and entered my mother's room. "Mom, are you okay?" "Lisa, I'm sorry to worry you. My mother looked very pale. The doctor indicated her condition was serious and that she would need a long hospital stay. I decided to stay with her for a while, packed my things, and told Joe I would be away to accompany my mother. However, Joe didn't seem particularly concerned. "Oh, I see. Well, take your time." I frowned at his response. I was going to stay with my ill mother. Yet he sounded as if I was just going out for leisure. Despite my apparent displeasure, Joe looked upset and asked me, "What? You look annoyed. Did I say something wrong?" "No, it's nothing." Thinking it over, Joe comes from a wealthy, pampered background. Expecting him to understand subtleties might be too much. So, I didn't say anything more and quickly returned to the hospital. 3 months have passed since my mother was hospitalized. Her condition remains unchanged, requiring my constant presence. What bothers me more is that Joe hasn't visited once. Is he still holding a grudge because I frowned at his words? If so, it's incredibly petty. My mother, lying in her hospital bed, looks at me with concern. "Lisa, is everything okay with Joe? Don't worry about me. Why don't you go home to him?" "It's okay, Mom. I do go home occasionally." I reassured her, not wanting to worry her further, but I was feeling anxious. For about the first month, I did go home to check things, but Joe was sulky and hardly spoke to me. I would finish the chores quickly and return to the hospital. Eventually, I got the sense that Joe was managing on his own and didn't seem to need me around. Lying awake at night, I wondered if this was okay. Months passed and I continued to worry. Then, one day, I received a phone call. It was from Madison, according to my smartphone's display. "Hello? Hey, Lisa. It's been a while. Just thought I'd check in on how you're doing." Madison. "It has been too long. How have you been?" I was uplifted hearing Madison's voice after such a long time. However, her response seemed slightly hesitant. Yeah, I'm good." That's good." Feeling the mood turn somewhat heavy and unsure of what to say, Madison changed the subject. "So, when are you planning to come back home?" Huh? I hadn't told Madison about staying with my mother. Her question caught me off guard. Still, it was nice of her to reach out after so long. I responded calmly. "What's up, Madison? Is there something you need to call me for?" "Oh? No, nothing in particular. Just wanted to hear your voice." While she was speaking, a man's voice in the background called out, "Hey, Madison." She gasped and quickly ended the call. That voice, could it be? A chill ran down my spine. It's been over 3 months since I stopped going home regularly. A bad feeling prompted me to decide to go home the next day. The following day, after morning rounds at the hospital, I hurried back to my house. Since it was Sunday, Joe should be home. Upon arrival, I noticed a bright red sports car parked in the space where my car should be. This car seemed familiar. I unlocked the front door and found a stylish pink bag at the entrance. It seemed my suspicions were confirmed. "Joe. Are you here?" As I called out from the entrance, Joe appeared, looking surprised. "Lisa. Why did you come back so suddenly? You should have at least called." "Why should I call? This bag and the car are in the garage. They belong to Madison, don't they?" Joe attempted to smooth over the situation, clearly flustered. Well, Madison just happened to stop by." As he spoke, Madison emerged from the back. Dressed in a loose-fitting dress that seemed almost too simple for her usually stylish choices. Almost like a maternity dress. Without any hint of embarrassment, she blocked my way. Why hide? We would have to talk about it sooner or later. It seemed like Madison was beyond caring, facing me boldly without a hint of shame. Then, she dropped the bombshell. I'm pregnant. Don't bother coming back. What? Didn't you hear? I'm having Joe's baby. As Madison stood there defiantly, Joe sighed deeply, looking down. He probably wished for a more composed discussion. It's your fault, Lisa. You neglected your husband under the guise of taking care of your mother. You brought this on yourself. Madison seemed triumphant, but I remained unfazed. Seeing me not react, Madison, pouting, continued. Don't pretend you don't care. I heard you didn't like this house. Well, I don't mind. The property is spacious, there are no nosy neighbors. And most importantly, Joe is kind and wealthy. Perfect, right? Joe, perhaps emboldened by Madison's words, changed his demeanor. I fell for Madison the moment I saw her at our wedding. So, I thought it's best if you, who dislike this house, leave, and I'll live here with Madison. Exactly. Joe even looked me up from the guest list and called me, saying he needed me here since you weren't coming back. How could I refuse someone who needed me so much? Oh, is that so? I replied indifferently to Madison's boastful story. Humph. Pretending to be strong. You must be so upset. Let me repeat, I'm carrying Joe's baby. So, don't bother coming back here. With a smile, I graciously accepted her words. Is that so? Delighted to hear. Joe and Madison were stunned by my unexpected response. Lisa, what are you saying? Aren't you mad that I cheated? Oh well, I was surprised initially, but I'm not angry. Besides, I already have a new home. A new home. What are you talking about? I explained further, seeing Joe's confused expression. Actually, I've been looking for a new house since we got married. Sure, we could live here initially, but what about when we have kids? There aren't even schools nearby. Madison seemed taken aback, likely not having considered the school situation for her future child. Why didn't you discuss such an important matter with me? You said you didn't want to move from here. So, I started looking on my own, visiting real estate agents and searching online. But now, it's none of your business. What do you mean? Joe seemed obliviously inquisitive. Even though his actions had pushed us past the point of planning a future together. I continued the conversation calmly. Despite thinking how absurd it was for him to expect any involvement in my plans now. Since you've had an affair with Madison and even started a family with her. It's best if you continue living in this house with her. You're financially well off. So you can afford to send your child to a distant private school and commute daily. As I spoke, Joe nodded in agreement, seemingly coming to terms with the situation. Madison, surprised by my calm demeanor, challenged me. Lisa, you're too accepting of this. How can you so easily accept Joe and me together? What's going on? No, it's just that I've come to realize I can't trust Joe anymore. Especially since he never once visited my mother in the hospital, despite her long-term illness. So, I've decided to live with her in a new home I've arranged. We'll have home nursing care provided by the hospital. Are you not angry about the affair? You won't demand property division later? Joe was still self-centered, a true product of a sheltered upbringing. Don't worry. I won't resort to such tactics. I replied with a slight smile. I knew they would face their challenges without my needing to intervene. Joe and I divorced, and I moved to a new home with my mother. The house, designed to be barrier-free, provided her with a comfortable environment for recovery. close to the hospital for easy access to medical care. Meanwhile, Joe began his new life in the old house with Madison. As Madison's pregnancy progressed, the lack of nearby medical facilities became apparent, requiring Joe to drive her over an hour for prenatal visits. Their marriage might have seemed idyllic to some, but then Joe called me in distress. "Why do we have to leave the house?" "So, it's finally happened. Did Uncle come by?"
Yeah.
"Were you aware of this and kept it hidden?" The uncle in question was Joe's late father's brother, the actual owner of the house. "Oh? But you knew, didn't you? That the house belongs to your uncle." Joe fell silent, apparently having forgotten that critical detail. I had learned during a family visit before our marriage that Joe's father had passed the property ownership to his brother, deeming Joe too unreliable to inherit it. I completely forgot. But then my uncle showed up out of the blue, saying he had informed his wife about selling the land. "Why didn't you tell me about something so important?" I couldn't help but internally laugh, thinking of how well my uncle played his part. I had shared everything with him, leading to his promise to give Joe a reality check. "Sorry, but with you having a child with Madison, I thought it best to leave you two to handle it. Besides, you have the means to move anywhere, right?" Joe's tone darkened as he confessed to being demoted from his position as president, now facing a drastic pay cut. Madison was furious, having dreamed of a lavish home on their spacious land. Madison's furious. She wanted to remodel and expand into a luxurious mansion. Now she won't even speak to me since she heard we have to leave and about my salary cut. What should I do? Joe sounded on the verge of tears. It was clear Madison had been with him for the money. Well, that's something you'll have to manage on your own now. Good luck. What? Wait. Hey. Despite Joe's attempt to keep the conversation going, I quickly hung up without giving it another thought. Right after, Madison's call came in. Expecting her usual tirade and knowing she wouldn't give up easily, I reluctantly answered. Madison's voice flooded in, seriously? This is all your fault, Lisa. I thought I had hit the jackpot marrying a rich guy. Her words were as expected. Well, it's not so bad. Joe is a kind husband to you, isn't he? It's not like he's unemployed. Unacceptable. You knew, didn't you? That we had to vacate the house. Keeping silent about it is so sneaky. And what if I had told you? If your ideal life was disrupted, you would have left him, wouldn't you? That would be unfair to your child. Madison had no comeback for that. No matter what life throws at you, you're about to start a family. You need to be strong. After making my point, I hung up again. Any lingering resentment toward Joe for stealing him was gone. I just realized I had been poor at judging character. Joe and Madison ended up moving in with Madison's parents. Despite their initial anger at Madison for snatching me away, they welcomed the couple for the sake of their soon-to-arrive grandchild. Years later, Joe and Madison, now with a child, tracked me down and visited. Despite not having shared my new address, they followed me from town and found out where I lived. I wondered why they went through all that trouble. Lisa, are you in? We were just nearby for our child's kindergarten admission result and thought we'd stop by. Madison barged in, flaunting her unchanged, flashy appearance. As usual, huh? So, how did it go? Despite my lack of interest, I asked, knowing she had something to say. Guess what? Our child got into the best kindergarten in the area. Came all this way just to brag, huh? Well, congratulations. She was here to boast. Exactly. Our child is not only smart like his dad but also has my good looks. Impressing everyone at the interview. As Madison rambled on, I responded sarcastically. Oh, that's nice for you. Madison seemed annoyed by my lack of enthusiasm. Despite everything, we're happy now as a family. Isn't having a family wonderful, Joe?
Yeah.
Sure. Standing quietly behind Madison, Joe finally spoke up. Their son, resembling Madison, looked at me with a haughty expression, seemingly inheriting not just her looks but her attitude as well. And this a number one at kindergarten is? Oh, you wouldn't know, being single. It's Joan's kindergarten, right here in the neighborhood. Madison mocked me, so I quickly retorted. Who said I'm single? I've remarried. Joe and Madison were taken aback by my revelation. What, really? This house isn't the one you've been living in with your mother? Yes. My husband and I live here now. Upon saying this, my husband, Michael, emerged. Do we have guests? Please come in. Oh. You are? Upon seeing Michael's face, both of them exclaimed in surprise. Michael, recognizing them, responded in a reminiscent tone.
Ah.
You must be the parents of Ethan who came for the interview the other day. Right? You were the interviewer, weren't you? Yes, I apologize for not introducing myself earlier. I am Michael Jones, the principal of Jones Kindergarten. Are you friends with Lisa? She has mentioned you. Hearing that Michael was the principal of Jones Kindergarten, the couple was visibly taken aback. Wait, the principal is your husband? Yes, that's right. I can't believe someone like you could end up marrying the principal of a prestigious private kindergarten. How did you even meet someone like that? Madison criticized me. But I had changed from the past and didn't deserve to be looked down upon by her anymore. We met through work. My company was contracted for the renovation of the kindergarten. Yes, seeing her work so diligently made me interested. So I was the one who asked her out, which led to our relationship. Michael said this with a shy smile. Oh, let me introduce properly. This gentleman is my ex-husband, Joe. And this lady is my former best friend who took my ex-husband, Madison. Hey. Don't introduce us like that.
Yeah.
What kind of thing is that to say in front of a child? Both appeared flustered in front of the principal of the prestigious kindergarten they hoped their child would attend. Given the family's complicated background becoming known, they were understandably nervous. Madison timidly asked Michael, so, about the kindergarten enrollment. Michael, after a moment's thought and a stern expression, softened and replied. Let's see how your child adjusts to life at the kindergarten for now. So, our child can still enroll? Relieved, Joe and Madison smiled. However, they didn't yet realize the challenges that awaited them in the kindergarten community. Gossip spread quickly among the tightly knit parents, isolating Joe and Madison. Even their innocent son Ethan faced exclusion, ultimately leading them to leave the kindergarten. Later, it was heard that the family tried enrolling Ethan in a public kindergarten. But faced similar issues due to spreading rumors. Eventually, Joe and Madison left the area, leaving Ethan with Madison's parents, who now take care of him and ensure he can attend kindergarten without issues. Having distanced themselves from Madison's actions, I was concerned about Ethan, but hearing the story from Michael, I felt relieved. Later, Madison's parents came to apologize for everything that had happened. I'm truly sorry for the delay in coming to apologize. We wanted to bring Madison along, but she refused to come. Oh? Is Madison back at home? I was surprised to hear that Madison was at home since I had heard that Joe and his wife had disappeared. According to her parents, after leaving their child behind and attempting to escape their dire situation, Joe and Madison couldn't endure the hardship and ended up divorcing, with Madison returning to her parental home alone. However, it seems Ethan doesn't see Madison as his mother, and she's being ignored at home. As time passed, I gave birth to a long-awaited daughter, my first child. Giving birth at a local hospital, I made many mom friends. Though I lost a childhood friend, I plan to enjoy my time with my mom's friends in similar situations. Michael even took paternity leave and has been showing great dad skills. This might be the happiest time of my life. No, I plan to continue enjoying parenting, blessed with a good family and friends. Like my mother who raised me single-handedly, I want to shower my daughter with love. Even if she goes through a phase of heading in the wrong direction, I'll believe in her, in my family and friends around us, and above all, in myself. As a mother, I vow to live strongly from now on.